Yo,
Hello,
yo.
hello,
You got the
hello.
dragon rider with you.
There you go. There you go. Hello. You know what time it is. It's time for no particular reason. Yes, it's Friday.
It's
I'm
no
your host,
particular
Yanko.
time.
Exactly. And we're with our co-host, Kerri Lewis, and our favorite returning guest, Gail Kraft, who's joining us today with
Ad hoc.
with the
Yes.
dragon behind her. That's
Yes.
right, right, riding that fire.
Woo, yeah. Riding that
Loving
fire,
it.
baby. I love it.
Loving it. Loving it. Loving it.
Yeah, so as I always have something to share. Thanks guys for joining us for episode 60 of For No Particular Reason, and the beautiful gift of Gail jumping on unexpectedly when asked 8 minutes ago if she wanted to join us, because Gail and I had a really profound conversation around 6:30 this morning that I was hoping to carry into the conversation for no particular reason. However, the show is for no particular reason, so we shall see where this dance goes.
I love unscripted, raw and real. So we were talking about ego,
Mm-hmm.
but not in the sense of, well, maybe in the sense of, self-righteousness ego, but we really were talking about, does it make sense to really get beyond ego totally? And can we? And what does that look like? And why would we? So yeah,
And I'm
6:30 in
curious.
the morning, we're having this heavy
I
conversation.
know, of course we are, because that's just who we are. But I would be curious to hear Yanko's perspective on ego and transcending ego in this human experience that we're having right now.
Well, I think transcending the ego to me, it's first of all quieting the mind and not having that internal chatter, which comes from the ego. I think, and once you have that chatter pushed away or just quiet, um, because you're observing and you're not your thoughts, then you can really live in the now without anything interrupting. And that's kind of like where you're still having a ego identity. That's kind of like what it is, um, but in the same time, it's shifting back and forth. It's not like a complete switch over where you don't have the identity until you actually outgrow that as well. Because I believe, and that's my personal belief, that your nervous system has to get prepared to be able to handle all that expansion of your consciousness. Because if you're in that state of expansion, it might be too overwhelming for somebody where there's no borders between you and everything else, because ultimately we're all one.
Yeah.
So that's my line of thought.
So
Um,
go ahead.
Yanko, go ahead.
So it's interesting because I have not had, I obviously, because of the meditation I've done, I felt my energy charged. And I share with people a lot that as you move the channels and the blocks, remove them from your chakra system, you do feel like you vibrate. But I haven't had that experience where I'm just in that oneness. But I will say, in what I was sharing with Gail, is that I've read extensively in Eastern scripture, but also by David R. Hawkins, that we do go into that oneness and you can eventually just exist in that oneness. Hawkins does elaborate very beautifully in one of his books, and I want to say it's transcending something, that he burned. Like he had to stop meditating because he had not prepared his body to exist in that powerful of an energetic state. And then in the Upanishads, like part of where the Bhagavad Gita comes from, a lot of those yogis have specific yogic practices to prepare the body to be able to withstand that amount of energy. And if anybody is ever interested, if you read the biography of a yogi, what is his name? I can't even remember. Paramanda Yogananda
Paramahansa
talks
Yogananda, yeah.
about being able to leave his body and project in other areas of the world while sitting in a yogic state. So who knows? But I definitely believe we can transcend our body. I mean, transcend ego in our human experience.
So and my perspective is that I believe, and that might change tomorrow, that I use ego in order to stay in the third dimension, in order to stay in this human experience. So I can transcend it to a point, but not completely, nor do I want to kill ego. Maybe transcend is the right word to use. I honestly, in fact, I know, I don't believe, I know that the experience that I went through 2 years ago with chemo was intended for my body to be alchemized and changed so that I could deal with what was coming to me. And since then, even like yesterday, I was in a meditation with a group and I could feel expansion happening, right? And I was like, "Oh, wow, this is so much fun. This is so cool." Right? Right? And I'm just gonna just sit with it and stay with it, and it's open now. I mean, there's a different vibration with me at the moment from that experience,
Yeah, of
right? And
course.
I do feel different. I breathe differently. My body feels different. And I don't know if I would have been able to handle that if my body hadn't gone through the change that it went through. So back to ego, um, I look at ego as my early warning system, and I check in. Okay, so you're telling me there's danger here. Is it real? Or are you just being ego? Right? And if it's real, it's like, okay, what do I want to do? How do I want to navigate? Where do I want to go? And is it just a perception? If it's just a perception, I say thank you. You can get back in line. Your job is not to run me. Your job is just to give me information that I can make a decision on. And you're not the only piece of information that I get. A lot of people, when they're working from fear and guilt and shame and all of those emotions you're talking about, Kerry, are allowing ego to be the boss. And ego is not the boss. Ego is the worker
That's
bee,
right.
right?
That's
Ego
right.
is the worker bee to do what I ask it to do.
That's right.
Um, when I am in a transcendental state, I am asking ego to sit back, to not be in the way, because I can't bring that baggage with me, right? So any baggage has got to stay here. But if I'm going to exist in the third dimension, I have to construct my reality, and that is constructed by beliefs and biases, and that's ego,
100%.
right?
But I also think that that goes exactly to my point that I share with my clients all the time, that we have a responsibility, and I fundamentally believe this, to question our beliefs often. It's not to say you can't keep them. I'm not here to tell you what belief serves you and what one doesn't, but I am here to hopefully embody and encourage you to ask yourself if what you are subscribing to serves you in the first place. Because to your point, Gail, if it's the belief is causing you to sit in shame, if it's causing you to sit in guilt, if it's causing you to sit in fear, if it's causing you to sit in anger or any of these energies, I mean, you get to keep them if you want, but they're less powerful, scientifically proven, than energies such as love, compassion,
Mhm.
joy, authenticity. So,
And they only last 90 seconds
yeah,
maximum.
that's the thing. Is like, so it's just we give ourselves a gift by examining our beliefs and deciding what serves us or not. And Yanko and I have had this conversation before. I mean, I fundamentally believe if we co-create with the universe, right, and the universe is limitless, and really, if you want to get into the weeds on this, all beliefs are limiting because it creates some type of construct in a limitless world. But because we exist in this human experience, we do need some type of operating system to guide us to the experience we want to have. And that's why I really do fundamentally believe that we have a responsibility to examine our beliefs and let them go if they don't serve us.
Absolutely. I listened to a Bashar recording one time, and he said something that totally resonates with me because I do soul realignment work and I look for your blueprint, right? And he talks about getting your blueprint, where you get your blueprint for this world. And there's a blueprint that you get of beliefs, if you will, before you're even brought into this world, because you have to believe that there's a thing called gravity. You have to believe that air is life force energy. You have to believe some of the things that construct this illusion of a world that we're in, right? You have to believe that there are stars. So fundamental, those beliefs are imprinted into us before we transcend into the next set of blueprint, which is your soul purpose and why you're here, right? And then it's up to us with free will. Free will is a blessing and a curse. Right? Right? So when I think of free will, let me back up. When I go through patterns on the trestle board and the Kabbalah and the tree of life, the will that we're given is the will of God, right? This is why we're here. This is my divine will. Ego is put in place, but you have a choice, right? You have a choice, right? You can live your life in love or you can live your life in anger. And you can have ulcers and all kinds of diseases, or you can have joy. And yeah, so your body kicks in every once in a while. It is, after all, only an illusion, right? So what happened to me is I believe that all of the things that happened to me defined me. And it wasn't until I took responsibility for myself that I redefined who I am. And I redefine who I am moment by moment by moment. By conversations with people like you, I get a different perspective. And therefore, my beliefs are fluid. My beliefs are in motion. My beliefs are dough that I mold every single moment. Right. And so, what I say today, a week from now, I may say something different because I have different data.
I love that.
Right.
That
Go
is
ahead.
so profoundly important for the listening audience. And that's why and Gail, you and I talk a lot about this. I label myself as a mental health and addiction recovery coach because that feels tangible for a lot of people who still really are trapped in that idea that we are our thoughts. And yet I am so much like I don't even know what I am. And to your point, in any given moment, from a conversation you and I had at 6:30 in the morning, fast forward to 8:15, I created a song about but because so I could be a singer in one moment. I can be an artist in another. I can be totally zoned out of Yanko's conversation with me about technology in another moment, which happens so often. And I catch myself, I'm like, oh my God. So we don't need to know. We get to just allow ourselves to let the things unfold the way they are. And that is the gift of truly, for me, loving myself, that I don't have to have that idea.
And I love to play with it. It's
Yes.
just a game. It's just a game. And Yanko, you have been quiet. I love how you're quiet, but I know you've got a zillion thoughts on this. Pop on in and tell us what
Yeah,
you
forgive
think.
me. Well, I'm texting Al, who commented, because I love Al Richards, and he has he has a unique and profound perspective. So I'm trying to get him to join us on
Have
our
them
show.
join us. Yep. So Yanko, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm thinking that that's like just addressing the symptom, not like addressing the real issue. um, because like if you go back to where you're little, hey Al, nice for you to join us.
What's up, guys?
um, so if we go back to when we're a little boy or girls, when we come into this world, there was no like baggage, there was no ego. And we still existed. The I am existed. I am that I am. I know I exist, and here I am doing whatever, and the flow of things. So, you know, addressing just your thoughts and all that stuff, it's all good and dandy, but it's just addressing the symptoms, not really getting to the core of like, do we know who we are? Do you know who you are and in what you are and all that? And going back to a lot of like the yogis talk about who wants to know or who wants to do this or question where's this coming from, and you find that it's coming from the ego. Most of the time, everything comes from the ego. So in a way, you don't want to be struggling with your ego. You don't want to be fighting it. But then it gets to a point when ego realizes that it doesn't exist, but it doesn't want to give up, and
Yep.
it's still there. And it's like this point, and there's almost like you're having two entities inside of you real you and the ego going back and forth, and it's a struggle because it feels painful for the ego to know that it wants to know but it can't see. It's like the eye seeing the eyes. You can't see above the ego, and he knows, but it's kind of a struggle. So that's my opinion on that.
Well,
But
I want to jump in here and introduce Al Richard.
yes,
So he is a beloved and welcome guest on any and all of my shows, and this is my third show. I finally got Al on all three, so this is amazing. But Al has a lot of wisdom to share, and when we're talking about belief systems, but even knowing who we are, a month ago, Al had two legs and then he lost one. 3.5 weeks ago, Al had somebody he loved really close and she transcended unexpectedly. And I think that is a gift of us giving ourselves permission to not know what's going to unfold, but choosing to be open to that experience. Not from a place of fear, but from a place of love, which Al does so beautifully. So thank you for joining the combo.
Thank you for inviting me, Kerri. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we love it. So what are your thoughts
On the belief?
on anything you want to share with the
Anything
listening
you want to
audience?
share? Yes.
Wow. Well, I just got home from the gym, so hopping around the gym on one leg. But um, I know when Kerri and I we did a show as a guest on one of her shows about a week ago with her and Nana, and it's crazy that word belief. I was telling Kerri that is actually a word that I've worked on not having in my vocabulary. And the reason for it is because we're all molds of our parents. We're all raised differently, and we have certain beliefs that our parents have ingrained in us, right? And we come to believe that wholeheartedly with every ounce of our being. So what I've come to realize is what makes my belief different than someone else's belief. Am I right and they're wrong? Or are they right and I'm wrong? And then I started really looking into it. And I actually had a client, or not a client of mine, but a guest of mine that came on my podcast that said, if you look at the word belief, you'll see the word lie in it. And I went, wow, that's really interesting. So I just like to say now, like my version of it. And I like what I heard just a little bit ago. I don't have the name of the lady that said it here, but
Gail.
Gail.
Gail. So Gail, yeah, I think it was you that said, or maybe it was Kerri that said, what I see as of my belief today may change tomorrow. And that is so freaking true because we are constantly changing, at least those of us who are wanting to evolve and become better individuals. You know, what I believed in a week ago, I may not believe in to this day because my perspectives have changed or something's opened my eyes. So again, that's why I don't care to use that word anymore. And I just use my word, my version is, and this is my version. However, my version could change next week, just as easy.
You
Yeah.
know, Al, I use the word my perspective. Don't put me on. I want to leave him there. I use the word my perspective versus my belief. So, and I don't even remember when I switched that. It just happened. And today is just a projection of today. Yesterday doesn't exist. It's more of an illusion than today is, and today is an illusion. And so when I wake up in the morning and look at the day as this is a brand new start of a brand new gale, of a brand new experience, a brand new day, then what happened yesterday doesn't matter because it's today that matters, right? And
Mm.
this moment that matters. And I, like Kerri, strive to be in the moment because that's the only reality and it is fleeting. It is
Yep.
fleeting. Anything else is a construct that I've made up,
Yep.
right?
It, I do want to add something or touch upon something that you had shared earlier, Gail, around being in a group and meditating and really being tapped into that connectedness. And I think this speaks to the energy that I'm willing to engage in. And so you and I, we go into meditation so we can like really tap in when we bypass our ego to the energy of the collective, specifically around us, but even beyond that.
Mhm.
And I know that because I'm constantly called to reach out to somebody, and it's the exact moment when they needed to receive the exact message that was delivered, which I truly believe is God or love or however you define source
Right.
working through me as a vessel to impart that on another individual. However, I am very particular about the energy I'm around at this point in my life. I have zero tolerance for being around energy that is not joyful. Now, does that mean that I'm right and they're wrong? Absolutely not. But this is my human experience. And I absolutely, with free will, have the ability and the right to choose the experiences that I want to exist in this lifetime that I've
Yep.
chosen. And so I come off really tough and probably even judgmental, but it's not that I'm judging other people. It's that I'm not willing to compromise on what it is I'm absorbing and tapping into
Yep.
in any given experience, which is why all three of you hold sacred spaces in my heart, because it's a beautiful energy of love that you guys offer rather than fear. And if you did offer fear, it's not that you're bad, wrong, not good enough. It's just that I don't want to be a part of that experience.
You know, and that gets to the conversation I was having this morning about quantum entanglement. If I allow myself to be around that energy that doesn't vibe with me, it's going to seep in, right? That's where I was saying earlier that I found myself having a perception on money that is not mine.
Yeah.
Like, where did this come from? It's because of who I'm around and I'm allowing that in. So I have to be very, very discerning about who is in my circle,
Yeah.
right? And it's really, really important to understand it. It's not judgment, right? You know, I told you about a meditation I wrote that I'm not giving because the universe just dumped something new on me, so that's okay. But the meditation that I had created was about you are allowed to be angry, and I love you anyway. You are allowed to be judgmental, and I still love you. I still love you from afar. I still love who you are on a soul level. You have permission to be on your path, and I'm not going to get in the way. I will love you as you go through it. And it doesn't mean I have to be around them, right, Kerri? It just means that I love you, but I love me too. and I'm going to be sure that me is first, because me is so important to be able to give to you.
100%.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, so guys, if you're in a relationship that is not feeling right, and whether it's business relationship, a personal relationship, a friendship, an intimate relationship, it doesn't matter. Two people together, you're in a relationship with yourself. You can change that one. You can't change the other. You cannot change someone else. You either change your perspective or you leave. But you
Well,
love them anyway.
Well, for the listening audience, and I'm gonna keep touting Al right now because he's new to this show, and so I want our listening
Yeah, let
audience
him.
to learn a little about him. That's the thing, is he was able to look at himself and keep it real with himself, and at one point not love himself. So Al and I have similar stories, and we struggled with addiction, and that's a gift in that we recognized we weren't showing up in kindness or compassion for ourselves, and both of us, and Al, please jump in here, made choices to do a better job of loving ourselves, so that how we showed up in the world did serve rather than negatively impacted.
Right.
Yeah. And it's crazy too, because it took me quite a few years to really understand that on this past, gosh, almost 18 years of me working on myself. It it really didn't even hit until probably about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years, that I am wanting certain love for me to be projected on me. And I'm also, what Kerri had talked about, I'm looking at trying to help change somebody else when they really didn't want to be changed. But then it really hit me really hard that I cannot give 100% of me until I love 100% of me. And once I figured that out and practiced and worked on that, my gosh, it's like the floodgates opened.
Yeah.
Because is if let's see, what's a good way of putting it? Well, it was just like when my ex was battling with her addiction. Even though I had an addiction, mine was different compared to what a lot of others go through, and I was trying to be her therapist, addiction therapist, when really I had no clue what addiction was all about.
Right.
And I remember she told me once, I wish you'd be my damn husband for once instead of my damn therapist, because you don't get it. And she was 100% right, but I still didn't get it. And until I started understanding these things and going, my gosh, how can I receive the love that I'm looking for, which my ex-wife loved the hell out of me. That is one woman who, I mean, she gave me 100% of her being of love to me. But as we lost each other through the addiction stuff, it was hard for me to get that back unless I gave that through myself. And that's what I let other people know as well when they call and ask for advice or whatever. I like to ask them, I'm like, so how do you feel about yourself? Where are you at as loving yourself? And I looked at loving myself as selfish. You got to give that love to someone else. Well, there's a different selfishness, right? You have every right to be selfish in the love that you want to give
Right.
to yourself.
Yep.
And then once you do that, oh my gosh, like I said, I got goosebumps over here on the
Me
other end. It just
too.
opens up. It just opens up the floodgates, and so many miracles start happening in your life.
Yeah. So would you say, Al, would you say that you're mindful of the quantum entanglements in language that Gail uses, but in the interactions that you have with people now in your life?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Before, in the past, anybody, if they were nice and friendly, they came into my life,
Yeah.
right? And I got hurt a lot of times. And a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, Joe, uh, he and I, we talk about this quite a bit. We have a very small circle or a bubble, and there's only a few people that are allowed inside that bubble. There's other people that can be just outside of the bubble, but then there's other people too that we still love and care about and treat respectfully, but they're a little further away from the bubble. I hope I'm answering your question,
Yeah.
because yes,
Yeah.
it is definitely, and by doing that, it changes your life. There has been people that literally I've had to say, I love you. You're still a friend of mine. However, in my head, I don't tell them this, but in my head, I just can't have you close to me,
Yeah.
because when you are, I feel I feel my battery being drained, and
Yeah.
I cannot let that happen. I have to remain at such a high level as consistently as possible to make my life feel so much better, if that makes sense.
And
Yeah,
before,
Al, either my battery gets drained or I'm exhausted putting up a barrier.
yep.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that's a
great
good point
point.
too.
Yeah.
Um, before you two, Yanko and Gail, add, because I want you guys to share your thoughts. I do want to highlight for the listening audience, it's not that any of us don't surround ourselves with people who challenge us. In fact, the people I keep in my circle challenge me all the time. Nobody placates me, but they challenge me to be the, show up in love, show up in compassion. When I'm not able to do that, they'll hold me accountable in a way that is nurturing and kind rather than destructive and breaking me down. And that's the difference, because I think that sometimes people make the mistake of thinking, oh, you only hang out with people who are really, really nice. I know Nana and I get this all the time. And I'm like, absolutely not. You best be believing that Nana will check me on my attitude, but he does it in a way that lifts me up and doesn't tear me down. And that's important to highlight.
Yeah, I think respect is the word that comes to mind when I think of that kind of relationship. Respect for you as a human being, respect for um, how I'm treading, right? So there was a time when I was disrespectful.
Me too.
Okay, just saying. My words could tear you down and leave a bloody mess, and I'd walk away and I wouldn't care. I mean, that was me before I started doing any work on, because I didn't like who I was. And the impact that had on people was devastating. Devastating, and I didn't even acknowledge it. When I became aware of how I wanted to be treated, right? Also, if me first, right? If I don't like this behavior, then how am I bringing that behavior in? What am I doing that I'm inviting that behavior in? And learned that, yes, I'm important first, but how I say what I have to say and get my message across without being inauthentic is also incredibly important, because I create this world, I create this reality with my thoughts and with my language. Um, I project that energy out, and I need to be sure that you get the message in a useful way. My job is not to harm you. And sometimes, a lot of times, I'll go to say something and the universe yells at me, "None of your business." And I'll literally go like that. I'll be going, and oh, okay, right, right. Because sometimes it is none of my business, right? This is your journey, right? And the message I've been getting has been, every time you interfere, they don't get their lesson. It is not you're stopping them from getting their lesson,
That's right.
right? Yes.
That's
Stop
right.
interfering with their lesson. I'm like,
You're robbing them
okay.
out of the experience. Good or bad is just a word that we use to
Yeah,
describe something that we're not even aware of.
yeah.
I wanted to add something to this whole conversation, but I forgot my line of thought. I was holding it in. I'm sure will come back to
Well,
me.
you
That's
know
why
what?
I have paper and pen.
So here's the thing. I do want to touch upon this, because I shared this, I think, with Gail, definitely with you, Yanko. I vacillate. Because just like I was saying, we are each other's miracles, right? If I get a nudge to reach out to Joe Schmo, and it makes no sense, haven't talked to him in 5 months, but I just am called to show up in love, I do that.
Right.
If I'm sitting here having a conversation, and this is real talk, guys, this happened, and I'm having a conversation with somebody who's sharing something, and I get a nudge to be like, dude, you're not embodying what you're saying, then I kind of do it. And the reality is one could argue that I am interjecting on their journey, but equally, I'm also, who's to say I'm not the nudge? Who's to say the universe didn't nudge me to say? The one point I will make is that, like you, Gail, I work very, very consciously to deliver a message that is clear, kind, and leaves you with something to consider, right? I'm not trying to tear you down, but I am going to say, hey, what you're preaching is not what you're practicing, and that could cause harm. So I don't know, I vacillate, and I'm happy to have you guys disagree with me, share your thoughts, because I do struggle with that, because I do have an ego, and I do recognize that I can be opinionated at times, but other times it's like, even when I try not to say something, I just do.
So let me be clear. When I get the message to say something, that's different than me interjecting and the universe telling me to back off. Right? So I'll give my daughters a perfect example of I've backed off from her because I've interfered enough in her journey, and she will ask me for advice on something, and I will sit and listen for a minute. What kind of advice am I going to give her? And I typically will say, this is from my perspective. It's from my journey and from my experience, and it may not resonate with you.
Yep.
But here's what I would do if I were in your shoes. So I have to be, and I do that with my clients as well. I can only tell you from my perspective and my experience, right? It doesn't mean it resonates with you, but it gives you something to think about. Right. And that's the best that I can do. It's a lot of times I spend, holding space. And right, holding space and asking questions.
Yep.
Because it really is, everything is my perspective, and I don't know your journey, Kerri. There's nothing in the world that's going to make me know your journey, because I have not lived your life all of the years and all of the experiences you have lived.
Yeah.
Period. So I can only tell you from my experience, and I am very clear about that. Very clear. And I am not walking on water yet, so I might be wrong.
I don't think any
Yes.
of us are.
Yes.
Yet.
And
Go ahead,
I
Yanko.
remember what I was gonna talk about.
Good.
So when you start doing the love about yourself and doing the introspection and all that, anything you sow, you shall reap. So that things will come back. They might not come back, like say being, cruel to people or other things. They'll come back. And when you're in a situation like that, maybe a year or 2 years from now, and you don't know when that situation is gonna come up, you're gonna recognize it. And that's the key, when you recognize it, not to react on that situation, but to recognize it as like, oh, it's all karma running out. I did that. Now I'm sitting on the receiving end. I know what it is. Thank you. And they can keep on going and like, oh, it's like, okay, thank you. I appreciate it. So that's what I wanted to add to that conversation, because a lot of the times people have that expectation that things are just gonna like change. Yes, once you open up your heart and you start loving yourself, you're receiving a lot more. Like Al was saying, it's like totally different experience.
Right.
But it's not magic. You still have to do the work, and you have to, go through the experience. And reap the fruits of your labor, either before or after. So that's all I wanted to add.
Yanko, I am here for my experience, right? That I came
Yeah.
here, I chose this life, I chose the challenges, I chose this game. I chose this level of game, which is the language I use with my clients. You
Exactly.
chose this difficulty, because you did so well in the last level. So
Yes.
congratulations on achieving the last level, and now you're on a more difficult level. So I've chosen this level. So I am going to hit things that I would prefer not to hit. It's how I deal with them and how whether or not I hang on to them and identify with them. Right, Kerri, you know that there was a moment where I received a diagnosis of breast cancer. I never said I have. I never said any I statement whatsoever, and I always saw myself as healthy. And I went through that whole journey, and when I was done, the oncologist is amazed that I'm not taking chemo pills, that my blood work is so good, she doesn't think she needs to see me. She's right, because I leaned into it and I used a whole, Eastern and Western medicine and all that kind of stuff. The point being is I knew the experience was here because this was the experience I chose and there was a purpose for it. I didn't resist it. I didn't fight it. I leaned into it in order to glean as much as I could. And now that experience is in the past. I don't call myself what some people call themselves, a survivor. I'm not at war with my body, never was. I am just a person who went through a journey and now has grown and has experiences to share. That's it. That's I don't identify with that experience. Why would I want to carry that experience for the rest of my life? That was a
Mhm.
moment.
Thank you.
That was a
Okay, I'm
moment.
gonna go on a tangent for a minute because
Yes, please.
this is why I have, and Yanko, I'm gonna be Yanko real quick. We are not doctors, so don't take any medical advice. Now Kerri's kicking back in. All right. This is why I have an issue with our mental health and addiction recovery system. And this is globally, okay? We sit here and perpetuate these beliefs and these labels and these identifications for people that latch onto it and live with it their whole life. Yes,
I'm an alcoholic.
you could
No,
have a
you're
mental
not
health
anymore. You're
crisis.
recovering.
You could have a mental health crisis. I'm not dismissing that, right? That crisis happens so you can learn yourself, so that you can be like Al, Gail, Yanko, and myself, who questioned our beliefs and said, I wonder why I'm not in alignment. I wonder why this feels yucky, right? It's not a bad thing. But when you then attach yourself to this, I'm mentally ill and I need to be subscribed medicines for the rest of my life that limit my ability to feel my feelings, to tap into the energy of the earth. Well, that's the problem that I have. And I'm not suggesting that medication could not be beneficial. It helped me. I'm not telling people to just jump off the deep end and stop taking medication. I do encourage people to consider a new perspective and to seek other avenues of healing, because you're limiting yourself when you label yourself as there being something wrong with you or that you can't overcome anything. And I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, Al, on what Gail was saying, because you, like Gail, went through a fairly significant physical health change. And I wonder how you have taken that experience and used it to expand rather than consider yourself as victimized because you have one less limb.
Yeah, it was, I'm not going to say it was easy. It may sound like it while I'm talking about it, because it's not. I remember when I first heard those words come out of the doctor's mouth, you may just lose your leg. I mean, immediately within a nanosecond, the first thought that came through my brain was, my life's over. I'm not going to be able to hike anymore. I'm not going to be able to kick the soccer ball around with my grandkids anymore. I'm not going to be able to drive my truck anymore. I'm not going to be able to have sex anymore. I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to do that. All this negative crap just started flooding my head. And it took, I don't know how long. It seemed like 5 minutes or so to me. It doesn't really matter. But then I stopped myself And thank goodness for the work I've done on myself all these years, and also being an international certified crisis and recovery coach. My training also kicked in where I went, wait a minute, wait a minute. I got two choices. I could sit and waller in the darkness and feel sorry for myself and end up frickin' laying around like a damn cesspool. Or I can go, huh, this is just a new chapter in my life. I wonder where this is going to go. And I've shared in some of my other shows that I am really excited to see where life is now going to take me, because it's a new journey. It's like going on a vacation to a place you've never traveled before, right? It's the excitement of getting there and then seeing the scenes, or learning the history or whatever. I'm rewriting a whole new chapter in my life. And I'll be damned if I'm going to allow something like this to put me in an area that I've worked my butt off to get out of. And it's changing that whole mindset on things. I mean, it's that whole, I've been told, even with the prosthetic, we're still getting to the point where my legs be in shape to get a prosthetic. I have had at least 3 people who have had prosthetics for actually from about a year up to about 14 years, say, do not settle for anything than what you want. Do not settle. And I was just meeting with a guy just a couple days ago, having coffee at a coffee shop, full leg amputation. Lost his leg when he was a young boy. And he's been dealing with, he's got a real cool robotic that he can control everything off his freaking phone, which is amazing. But he even told me, do not deal with anything that you're not comfortable with.
Ooh.
And it really got me thinking, man, that's just about life in general, right? It goes back to loving ourselves again. If we're loving ourselves, I'm not going to have my clinician say, you know what, you deserve a K3. Ampu Different legs and different things. Feet come in K1s, K2, K3, and K4. K4 is the top of the line. There's many different types. K3 will help me so I can go golf. It'll help me so I can go hiking and different things. And it's really crazy because my doctor saw it. My doctor goes, I'm not signing off on a K3. And I'm thinking, why? I don't understand. Because you told me you'd sign off on whatever they suggested. She goes, you deserve a K4 and I will make sure you get a K4. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So here I was settling with what my clinician was telling me. And it took my doctor to open my eyes up to go, no, why are you settling for that? You know, there's no reason for you to settle for that. This is what you want, because this will allow you to do whatever it is Al wants to go do. And you guys hit it, Gail, everybody. I mean, you guys hit it right on the nose. We settle for so much.
Yep.
And I just don't understand why we do that. Why, like AA, I'm not knocking AA. It's saved a lot of people. It's saved a ton of people. But why do you still get up and go, hi, my name's Al and I'm an alcoholic? Because you're no longer an alcoholic. Why? I used to tell my ex-wife that. Why are you going up there and putting that label on your forehead when you haven't drank for over a year? Why? Because you're not an alcoholic anymore. You was at one time, but you're not
Right.
now.
Yep.
You are this beautiful lady who, and then she got up and started saying, I'm in long-term recovery. So she changed it up. But again, it goes back to, I think, loving ourselves, believing in ourselves, and not settling. Because my hell, all my life I settled for whatever life was, whatever it took me all these years to figure out. I can make my life however the hell I want to make it, as long as I love myself, believe in myself. And I don't know about you guys, but since I have fallen in love with the person that I am today, my spiritual sense has opened up so freaking wide. It's like I am being led to every next corner and every next mountain. It is so flippin' crazy. He's speaking about those voices in your head. There's so many times a voice will say, you need to do this. And okay, I do it. And something amazing comes out of it. Or it says, don't do this. And then I find out, if I would have done it, this would have happened, which would have been a negative effect on my life. And it's just crazy. It's crazy how we can get as humans and how we have full control of everything. And one thing I've learned is studying the brain a little bit more. This does not control us. We control this. And it takes a lot of practice and a lot of recognizing and looking in the mirror and looking at the what word do I like? Looking at the mission in the mirror, or learning the lesson that's in the mirror, right? There's a lesson behind everything. And once we can figure that out, life starts going a heck of a lot smoother. We're still going to have, like I like the term shitballs. Shitballs are still going to hit us in the face. That's just part of life, but that's a part of our journey to strengthen us and help us learn, as long as we take it as that lesson. What is the lesson behind it?
Ooh.
You know, Al, my analogy of life being a game, it's like a video game, right? Is just like that. Okay. So I'm on level 1 and I pretty much suck, right? So I keep not making it, but I'm learning better how to navigate level 1. I finally get done with level 1 and I got some power-ups. And then I go to level 2. So I can navigate level 2 pretty well because I have the power-ups, but guess what? I've never been on level 2, so it's a bit of a struggle, right? And so I'm learning, right? Those are the lessons, learning as I go through level 2. And I pick up some other power ups. And when I get past level 2, then I get to level 3. That's why I say, especially the clients that I have that are in the dark night that come out of it with me, that's when I say, man, you must have been one powerful bitch in your last lifetime, because you just went through this game and this was a tough one. Congratulations on leveling up, right?
Yeah.
And that and this is just a game, right, Kerri? It's just a damn game. And when I can look at life that way, as it's I can't take things seriously.
I know I
I
have a
can't
hard
take it
time.
seriously that someone's pissed. You cut me off. Okay, so you cut me off.
Somebody sent me somebody
Go ahead.
in my immediate family, and I will not put them on blast. I was joking about their phone being archaic and needing to be in the Smithsonian, to which they immediately replied from a very fear-based narrative around, I guess, artifacts being removed from the Smithsonian. And so I was like, well, that's interesting, to their response, which is, that's horrible. I didn't even respond because I'm like you. It's hilarious. First off, I think about it as a house of cards crumbling down. The love's gonna wrap up all this fear-based stuff anyway, so I'm not really concerned about it. But it does come to a point where it's a matter of perspective. And for anybody who knows even the little slightest about me, I just choose joy. I choose joy all the time. Nana and I were at the doctor's the other day. I'm getting a colonoscopy, which, to Al's point, the doctor was like, you're so young. Why are you getting it? I knew I needed to, and they removed a whole bunch of polyps. So I'm like, because my intuition said I needed to, and I'm not waiting until this shit turns into something that I can't navigate. But I didn't even defend myself. I just ignored the conversation. But the real thing was that Nana and I were in so much joy that nurses were coming into our room to gather because it was a good old time. And so we get to do this life any which way we want. And I'm going to tell you, Al's right. And it takes work. We have a mid-cingulate cortex responsible for willpower. But every time I choose joy, it makes it a little easier to choose joy again, even when I'm sitting in a hospital room waiting to get a tube shoved up my ass. So I'm just saying, it's
Kerri, when I was going in for surgery, what was I doing? I was singing "We're Off to See the Wizard,"
the
right? As
wonderful
they're wheeling me down. The anesthesiologist and nurse joined me. Every station we passed joined me. The
Yep.
nurse that opened up the gates, we were talking about which do you like? And my surgeon says, I'm taking off your ruby slippers, my dear. I mean, the only thing you can do is raise the vibration.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's what I did.
I had the same thing when they was willing me in to have my leg amputated. You know, the doctor that was with me, she's joking with me. You know, she made the comment, "Hey, good news is you'll be better by October so you can play a pirate for Halloween, you know? And we're laughing and we're joking. And then she's like, hey, do you like that song by Paul Simon, You Can Call Me Al? And I said, yeah, I really like it. So her and I are singing this song, You Can Call Me Al, right? And then she pushes me into the surgical room. And guess what's playing over the speakers?
You can call me
You
out.
Can Call Me Al. And we both looked at each other going, you've got to be shitting me. You know, but it was just because I knew it was going to happen. The calm that was over me, I was so relaxed, which just blew me away because I had accepted it. There's nothing I can do about it. This is where life is going to go. I'm going to do the best. And what Kerri mentioned about her and Nun, you know, in the room joking, I had so many guests come and visit me literally the day after my amputation. Um, they said they're walking up to my room and all they could hear was like laughter coming out of a room. And they walk up and it's Al's room.
Yep.
And they're walking in and we're in there just joking and laughing. And of course, I still had my block, so I wasn't really in a lot of pain still. But we're just there laughing and joking. And so many of my friends go, how the hell are you doing this? How the hell are you keeping such a great attitude? You just had your freaking leg taken from you. And again, I tell them I got two choices. I can sit here and you can come in and visit me, and I can sit here and waller in my freaking sorrow and my tears and feel sorry for Al. Or I can go, man, where's life going to take me now? I got beautiful, beautiful, amazing friends that are coming to visit me. I'm going to make sure this visit is fun, you know, and they did. We all opened up and we just had a great time. And again, it's all changing this up here, and it's possible. It's possible. I'd like to challenge the listeners. If you brush your teeth with your right hand, for the next 7 days, brush your teeth with your left hand.
Yep.
Or vice versa. And the whole purpose of this is changing those neurons, firing different neurons, firing healthier neurons. So the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. Before too long, you're going to be brushing your teeth just as good with the other hand as you did with your dominant hand. It's the same when it comes to changing this up here with our thoughts, our attitude, how we look at life.
Yep.
You just have to go, okay, this sucks. Normally I'd get pissed. I'd throw something, I'd hit something, I'd tell somebody off, I'd flip them the bird or whatever it may be. See you, sweetie.
Ah,
Or you can just say, wait a minute, again, I can take control of this. I don't need to lose my temper. I just have to stop myself and settle myself down, and it just changes life so much. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. And before you know it, your brain is automatically doing it.
Yep.
Instead of you actually doing it.
Well, that's what, this kind of ties back to two things. One, you and I talking about having a good time in the hospital room speaks to what Gail had mentioned earlier today, which is quantum entanglement, right? Is like we wrap ourselves up in so much joy that we then receive that same joy back to us, because to Yanko's point earlier, what you sow, you shall reap. And we sow joy, so we get joy back, even in what some people would identify as really unfortunate circumstances. And secondly, choosing joy when you're used to naturally focusing on the negative does take work. But to Al's point, you do it over and over again. And instead of it taking you days, weeks, months, years to find the joy from a situation that felt hard, it takes 5 minutes in Al's case. Sometimes it takes me a little longer. Sometimes it takes me a nanosecond. But it's so much easier because I continue to flex that muscle over and over. And that helps me come back to joy. And I just love it. With that, we're at the top of the hour. Al, do you want to leave our listening audience with anything additional before we jump?
Wake up every morning with gratitude. It'll change your life. Just wake up, be grateful for what you have, because there are other people who would die to have what you have. You know, stop looking as I wish I had this or I wish I had that. You can get whatever you want. However, as long as you wake up with gratitude every day, and something that's been mentioned throughout the show, you know, live in the moment. I mean, seriously, this is all we have. God has given me this time right here, right now. 30 seconds from now, after I get off this, my life can change completely. So you just live in the moment.
Love that. What about you, Yanko?
I won't have anything to pass on. It might look like something, but yeah, you know, I would say to me it doesn't matter because everything it's in movement, everything moves all the time. So even if you try to get stuck or anything, you're gonna get unstuck. That's the reality of things. You know, you can try not to do anything or do anything, and then when the time it's right and everything it's right, even if you don't want to have that experience, you're gonna have it, or the other way around. We're just we're just conditioned to look for joy in escape pain, and that's the reality of thing. Most people are uncomfortable, and that's where the growth happens. You know, when you're in uncomfortable positions. Otherwise, when everything is comfy, nothing happens. You're just sitting like a still water, and nothing happens. So
I'm going to jump in real quickly. The universe will absolutely give you opportunities over and over and over to learn the lesson. And in that, it's a lot of discomfort. But Al and myself have chosen to be in joy while in that discomfort, because I'm constantly growing and expanding. But I can sit in the discomfort in joy. And that is why I encourage people, laugh a lot, give yourself grace, show up in the moment, and recognize that at the end of the day, this too shall pass. And tomorrow will be another opportunity if you wake up to do it differently, if you so choose. Until next week, guys, thank you so much, Al, for playing along and jumping in unexpectedly. I love it, love it, love it. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Love you guys. Take care. Be